All right. Let's start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakha Kodash. Welcome to another lesson, live lesson. The name of this one is How Jake Became Gentiles. Now, I was listening to the book of Jeremiah the other day, and I ended up reading a couple of the beginning chapters, and it was pretty heavy because, you brothers that's been around for a while, teachers, you already know the deal. But you could see like a pattern in Jake, back then to now, and how they were caught up, under the customs and the intrigue, for to use a word, of the worshiping of the other nations. Now, when we go to the book of Leviticus 20, I'm going to start there. But before I read that, I want to go to the word. I looked up the word Gentiles, right? And pretty much, it was it was pretty much, it was set up this way. It had to go down this way because the Lord had a bigger purpose. We had to fall. We had to learn the left-hand side, in order to appreciate the right-hand side, so to speak. Like elder high priest, Yahweh used to always say, the Lord taught us, the left-hand side, so that, pretty much we had to come full circle, for lack of better words. Now, the word Gentiles, so, those of you brothers that have been studying, that have, been teaching, you understand the scripture in Romans, the 8th chapter, where it speaks about, how we were made subject to vanity, not willingly, but by reason of him who has subjected the same in hope. Because, like the scriptures say, mercy rejoices over judgment. And what ultimate mercy would it be, what ultimate mercy then, the Lord Yahweh sending his son Yahweh Shai to die for our sins, to bring us back to him. Now we have a way, into the new living way, to Yahweh through his son Yahweh Shai. So the word Gentile is a person who is not Jewish. All right. Now you could use it that way because the word Gentile simply means nation. It comes from the Hebrew word Gawaya, which means nation. Now when you have the S at the end, Gentiles, it would be Gawayim, plural. All right, it says the word stems from the Hebrew term goy, which is really Gawaya, which means a nation, correct, and was applied both to the Hebrews and to any other nation, and that's correct because, the nation of Israel is a nation, and the term Gawaya also applies to Israel. All right, it says the plural goyim or Gawayim, especially with the definite article Ha-Goyim, or the nations, Ha-Goyim, meant nations of the world that were not Hebrew. And, like I said, you could use it in that fashion, but the Israelites also were also known as a nation. All right, and what happened, when we go back, Leviticus 20, and let's see if I can find the verse. I believe it's the 20th chapter. Yep, right here, 20 and 22. Leviticus 20 and 22. Says, you shall therefore keep all my statutes and all my judgments and do them, that the land whither I bring you to dwell therein spew you not out. And there were specific things that the Lord mentioned in his law for us to keep. All right, but we didn't keep it. It says, and you shall not walk in the manners of the nation which I cast out before you. So this was a strict commandment, not to walk in the manner of the nations, which, of course, Israel did. You know that term, curiosity killed the cat. Or this is what happened with Jake. Jake would see certain things and then they will go back and mimic it. All right. Now, when the Assyrian king Shalmaneser V came to conquer the northern kingdom, it said that the northern kingdom pretty much were serving serving these idols secretly. And I believe even in the wilderness, they were doing that secretly, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. Just bear with me 1 second. And we're going to read in particular two scriptures, 2 chapters if possible. If not, then you could read them on your own. We'll see what how far the Spirit allows us to get. I believe the word secretly is in there. Just bear with me 1 second. Yeah, this Mac is different from the regular PC. Let's see if this comes up. Yep. 2 Kings 17. I was there already, but 17 and 7. For so it was that the children of Israel had sinned against the Lord their power, which had brought them up out of the land of Egypt from under the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and had feared other gods. See, that's why it said, "Thou shalt have," the very first commandment is, "Thou shalt have no other God before me." And walked in the statutes of the heathen. See, and this is exactly what happened, and this is how Israel became heathens or Gentiles or uncircumcised, whom the Lord cast out from before the children of Israel and of the kings of Israel which they had made. And the children of Israel did secretly those things that were not right against the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushua their power. Remember, all you have to do is go, you can read Psalms 106, you can read Ezekiel the 8th chapter where it speaks about the men and the women, all doing these things secretly. All right? And they built them high places in all their cities, from the tower of the watchman to the fenced cities. Right. And this is why the Lord said, one of the specific things that the Lord said was, let's go real quick to Deuteronomy. I believe that's the 21st chapter. Nope. Let me see. It's in the book of Deuteronomy. Okay, 16. I thought it was 20. Deuteronomy 16 and 21. Thou shalt not plant thee a grove of any trees near unto the altar of the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushua thy power, which thou shalt make thee. And why is that? Neither shalt thou set thee up any image which the Lord thy power hateth. Right, and this is how the nations would worship their gods. They would go to the groves, and this is why when you go to these different churches, especially the Roman Catholic Church, and you look up into the ceiling, everything is arched together. The architecture of the church, everything is arched together. Why? Because that is symbolic of the groves, because the groves would arch into each other, and there they would find certain places out in the forest and certain other places, where they would set up a temple, they would set up, the altar to their gods, they would set up the images and all of that. And this is what Jake was doing. This is why the Lord said, when you build the altar to the Lord, don't build it near any groves, any trees. Now, when you go back, I forgot what year that was. That was when that Devil Ratzinger was still Pope. They had a mass outside, in the outside outside, out in the elements. And this was in Ephesus. And they had on the altar, they had, like vines, and, there were all kind of trees all over the place. And the average person would probably look at that and say, oh man, that was so nice. The way they did that, that was so different. No, that's forbidden in the scriptures. And this is exactly what Jake does. They look at stuff like that and they mimic it. This is why when we go back to Leviticus 20 and 23, and you shall not walk in the manners of the nation which I cast out before you, for they committed all these things, and therefore I abhorred them, meaning the Lord avoided them. And how did the Lord avoid them? By kicking them out of that land. All right? And this is exactly what happened to us. All right? So it says, but I have said unto you, you shall inherit their land, and I will give it unto you to possess it, a land that floweth with milk and honey. I am the Lord your power, for which have separated you from other people. You shall therefore put difference between clean beasts and unclean. Yeah. And this is why when the heathens would take over, certain ones of them, they would bring in, unclean foods like swine to offer on the altar of the Lord, because they were desecrating it, especially Esau. It says that between unclean fowls and clean, and you shall, because remember, when you go back into the law, there is a sacrificial law. All right? And there was a certain way that the sacrificial law would run. And you have a dietary law, which the dietary law pretty much was what we could eat and what we could not eat. So based off what we could eat, those were the animals, fowls, or whatever that would be pleasing as a sacrifice to the Lord. Now the heathen do the total opposite. To this day, when you go to a Greek restaurant, they'll sell octopus and calamari and swine and all these other abominable things, And that's what the Greeks did, and this is what Jake was doing. And this is what, brought Jake down to the level where we're at today. It says, and you shall not make your souls abominable by beasts. And this has not changed, and this will never change. But in the church, you have to teach that the laws are done away with, because they're trying to remove Jake as far away from the Most High as possible. This is why whenever you see commercials on, deals out there dealing with food and these fast food chains, it's always Jake eating a ham sandwich or a burger with bacon on it, or some type of McRib sandwich. Why is that? Because they're trying to have something to accuse Jake of, of committing abominations. That way the Lord could continue to abhor or avoid Jake. But what they don't understand is that, you have the elect out there. It says, or by fowl or by any manner of living thing that creepeth on the ground, which I have separated from you as unclean. And you shall be holy unto me, for I the Lord am holy, and have severed you from other people, that you should be mine. And how was that done? By the law, statutes, and commandments that the Lord gave to us, that made us holy, that separated us from the other nations. And the other nations were never given the law to follow. They were never given the law to be separated from us. The Lord made a distinction between the Israelites and everybody else. This is why he gave all of the nations all of their lands before he gave us ours. We got our land last, but we got the best land out there. See? So now we can segue into the book of Jeremiah chapter 2 and 1. And then you see here, Judah's apostasy. Now, let me see if I can copy this. Okay. Judah's apostasy, right? Now, when you look up the word apostasy, means the abandonment or renunciation of a religious or political belief. And this is why you had Jake that knew that they were Jake, that would be, we're dealing with during the time of Yahushua. Jake that knew that they were Jakes, but they were accused of breaking the law. So at that time they became apostates. And because certain ones of them didn't want to pay the price, they would flee into Samaria, where you had Hamites and you had other nations, Ishmaelites and all that. You had all those different nations there that were put there during the time of 2 Kings 17, when Shalmaneser V took down Hosea, the last king of Ephraim, of the northern kingdom, and kicked all of us out and brought heathens from all the different nations and planted them there in that land. And since they didn't know the manner of the Most High, because they were never given that, what happened was the Lord sent lions among them that was tearing their ass up. So there had to be one Levite priest sent to them to teach them the ways so they knew how to function in that land, so that them lions wouldn't tear their ass up. But it says that even though they were taught the ways, they still worship those foreign gods. You can read it for yourself. Go to 2 Kings 17 and read it for yourself. So apostasy or apostate is the abandonment or renunciation of a religious or political belief. In this case, we're dealing with religious or a worship, a belief of worship. And this is exactly what happened. So the Jews in Jerusalem that were keeping the laws looked at those Jews that ran into Samaria as apostates. This is why Yahushua went to them, but at first he told the disciples not to go to them, because they were not on the level yet. They were still disciples. They were not on the level yet to discern between the Israelites and the heathens, because they were all jumbled up in there. The woman at the well, she was a heathen. The man that she was dealing with at the time was a Jake. This is why the Lord told her, go get your husband. And then there were other men there that heard the Lord Yahushua, that heard him speak to them, that were also a part of that apostate, labeling from the Jews in Israel. Now, in the Josephus, which you don't really deal with the Josephus that much, except for like little tidbits here and there, they bring out some of that history of how the Jews in Jerusalem were calling those other Jews apostates. All right? And this is why the Lord said at first, don't go to them. But eventually the Lord went to them. And then when the disciples were on the level, he told them that they would go also among them. Because there were Israelites out there that were called Israelite foreigners or apostates that had to be brought back to the fold. All right? I mean, we're just fast tracking through how the Israelites became Gentiles. And I didn't want to put the word Israel because, every time you put the word Israel, they confuse it with the devils over there. That's why I put Jake. How Jake became Gentiles. So Jeremiah 2:1, it says, moreover, the word of the Lord came to me, saying, go and cry in the ears of Jerusalem, saying, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, I remember thee, the kindness of thy youth, the love of thine espousals, when thou wentest after me in the wilderness, in the land that was not sown. Right. This goes back to the deliverance from Egypt. It says Israel was holiness unto the Lord. This is before they started going off, before they started, worshiping idols. They were doing all this shit out there in the wilderness. Remember, they had knowledge of certain of these things in Egypt. It says, and the first fruits of his increase, all that devour him shall offend. So if all that devour him shall offend, and Esau was one of them, the Lord said eventually he's going to deal with them. He said, if, matter of fact, let me get that real quick, kind of deviating a little bit off topic, just to get a point here, because you got madness going on in these streets. Jeremiah 49:12. For thus saith the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, behold, they whose judgment was not to drink of the cup have assuredly drunk it. What is the cup? Slavery. Who are the they? They whose judgment? The Israelites. It says, what is the cup? Slavery. So the Lord said, they whose judgment was not to drink of the cup have assuredly drunken. And we did drink it, you know, because you had the northern kingdom here from the late 1400s until Judah started being brought here, catching hell, being shipped back and forth to Europe as slaves, you know, and then later on you had the bulk of the southern kingdom that was brought here in captivity. It says, and art thou he, meaning you Edomites, that shall altogether go unpunished? So you're not going to go unpunished. The scripture said the Lord is not going to acquit the wicked. Thou shalt not go unpunished, but thou shalt surely drink of it. And once you go down, you ain't coming back up. I don't give a damn what Bishop Nathaniel says. I don't give a damn what Elder Lahab says. Or any other person out there that's teaching this madness. That after 1,000 years, Esau's going to get the upper hand. He's going to get the battlefield earth effect. You know, rat brain is going to get smart enough, you know, to be able to take down, you know, the Israelites. Total nonsense. But this is what happens when you sever from the vine. So going back to Jeremiah 2, the Lord said that all that devour him, meaning the Israelites, shall offend. And you're in offense to the Most High. This is why the Lord said he's going to deal with you, you Edomites, and you other nations, because of what you did to his people. Because you touched the apple of the Most High's eye. You know, touch not his anointed and do his prophets no harm. And here in Isaiah 34:8, for it is a day of the Lord's vengeance and the year of recompenses for the controversy of Zion. So the Lord has a controversy with you devils for what you did to his people, the Israelites, Zion, the monument of the Most High, the holy people and representatives of the Most High on earth, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai on earth. You know, so he's going to get you for that. And then here it tells you how the land of America is going to be destroyed and totally abolished and never inhabited ever again. You know, there ain't going to be nothing here, but all of a sudden they're just going to magically, you know, come up and get the upper hand once again. Once Yahushua is in power, they're going to trick him and take him over and put us right back into captivity. This is utter and straight madness, you know, and it's sad to say the least. All right, so it says back in Jeremiah 2:3, all that devour him shall offend, evil shall come upon them, saith the Lord. Hear ye the word of the Lord, O house of Jacob, which is the whole nation of Israel, and all the families of the house of Israel. Let me see, what's the word families there? All right, Mashapha. All right, I thought it might say nations, because you have another one where it says a nation and a company of nations shall be of thee. It says, thus saith the Lord, what iniquity have your fathers found in me, that they are gone far from me? See, Jake went astray, and have walked after what? Vanity. What is vanity? These different idols, the different customs of the nations, and are what? Become vain, because the Israelites became vain. We all became vain at one point. Neither said they, where is the Lord that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, even to this very day? Because Jake is not looking to the Most High. They're not looking to Yahushua. They're looking to, you know, sweet Jesus. They're looking to, you know, God, you know, as far as being a white-looking person. And when you break it down to them, they get violently upset to the point where they want to fight you. It says that led us through the wilderness, through a land of deserts and of pits, through a land of drought and of the shadow of death, because it was very easy for the Most High to take our forefathers out in that wilderness. Do you know the amount of wild beasts that are out there? Serpents, venomous serpents, you know, all different type of pitfalls and quicksand and all that stuff that's out there, that where the Lord could have just finished Jake off out there. But yet he guided Jacob through all of that. It says, through a land that no man passed through and where no man dwelt. Right, and this is what America is going to be like. Except it's going to be burnt up. You know, but it's going to be a desert. And that's what the Lord brought our forefathers through in the past, where no man dwelt. You may have sojourned for a night or two if you were passing through and you happened to be at a spot where you were tired. You might have set up a tent for a night and then keep moving in the morning. And I brought you into a plentiful country to eat the fruit thereof and the goodness thereof. But when you entered, you defiled my land. How? By worshiping them damn idols. And made mine heritage an abomination. And that's how Jacob became heathens or Gentiles. And this is why when you read them, this is why they don't like to go back into the Old Testament. Because when you read the New Testament and you understand the Old Testament, you start to link things up. That these Gentiles are Israelites. And this is why they don't want the Apocrypha out. Because in the Apocrypha, it gives you the history, the most recent history in close to the time of Yahushua, where Jacob became apostates during the time of the Greek Empire. And it breaks it down, you know, blow by blow as to what took place. And it got so heavy that Antiochus Epiphanes, which, you know, you pronounce it Antiochus, but, you know, we're so used to saying Antiochus, we're going to say Antiochus, you know, potato. You know, at the end of the day, people know what the hell we're talking about. We're not eloquent orators, you know. So Antiochus Epiphanes, right, made it so hard for Jake. You know, not only could we not keep the Sabbath days and circumcise our male children, you know, keep any feast days, practice the law, you know, any of that, light incense, all that stuff. It got to the point where we couldn't even call ourselves Jews or Israelites. So if we were in the Greek captivity and we couldn't call ourselves Jews or Israelites, what did we have to call ourselves? You see? Greeks. This is why the New Testament, let's go there real quick. I'm not sure if that's Romans 10. I want one particular, specifically. Beautiful, bro. Romans 10 and 12. For there is no difference between the Jew and the Greek. For the same Lord overall is rich unto all that call upon him. So why did it say that there's no difference between the Jew and the Greek? Because they're both Israelites. It's just one was speaking Hebrew, keeping the law, statutes, commandments. The other one was speaking Greek, because they were caught up in the fray of the Hellenization of Israel, and some of them, going back during the time of Antiochus, did it voluntarily, you know, and others did it, you know, by constraint, what's the word I'm looking for? Under duress. All right, so these Israelites later on that were being called Greeks, some of them, the Lord tapped their spirit to bring them out of that Greek custom and bring them back to Israel, because he was redeeming them or reconciling them. And this is why the Apostle Paul said that. You best believe the Apostle Paul was a very learned man. He knew about the history of Antiochus and what happened during that time, and how the Israelites were made to worship the gods of the Greeks, and they were being called by Greek names. This is why when you read the New Testament, Romans 16 and other chapters, go through the book of Acts and through the letters of the Apostle Paul, and I believe even Peter and John and Philip and different books of the New Testament, from Acts forward, you had Israelites with Greek and Latin names. Just like in the service of Israelites, when you type in Sons of Israel in Caesar's service, it's a short book that gives you the names. I'll give you one in particular, Tiberius Julius Alexander. Now I remember his name because I just use the three letters acronym TJA. TJA, Tiberius Julius Alexander. That's usually how I remember, you know. And he was a general that actually brought down brought the house down on Jake in 70 AD. He was the one that really should be in the forefront of history as being the one that conquered, you know, and brought down the siege in Jerusalem and actually destroyed that. He was a major, you know, one that brought down Jake in 70 AD. Not Titus. Titus was just a figurehead. He was a very inexperienced general, you know. And Vespasian knew that. And that's why he sent, you know, Tiberius Julius Alexander to help his son, because he knew that Tiberius Julius Alexander was well trained in quelling the violence between the Israel, you know, between the Jews. He knew the different tactics and the different things that it took to bring Jake down, because he was an Israelite himself. You know, he put down many different revolts that Jake, you know, came up with. All right, you could do your history on that. So that's why I say that there's no difference between the Jew and the Greek. And then also when you read that little that book, it also speaks about how a lot of Israelites back then that were in the Roman military were not accounted for by the rabbis of that time, because they didn't acknowledge them because they had Greek and Latin names. You see? So they discounted them. But there were a lot of Israelites in the Roman military, but the reason why they weren't counted because they had Greek and Latin names. Period. All right, just like Cornelius. Cornelius was an Israelite that was in the service of Caesar. He was one of those. It's a Latin term for Judei Romani or something like that. It's three words, you know, that go into that. And by the way, I first learned about that from I believe it was Elder Banyamian of the HODC. They had mentioned that before, and when they mentioned it, I did research on it. You know, and apostles, of course, you know, they did research on it. But when I first heard it from them, you know, because see, unlike other individuals out there, we give credit to where we get our information from. You know, we don't plagiarize. You know, we let you know where we got our information from. All right, so you could do the research on that yourself. You know, all you got to do is type in Sons of Israel in Caesar's service. Project Muse right here. And you can read about this, you know, and it gives you, you know, a brief synopsis, and then it goes into some of the history. It's very short, you know, few pages, probably about 5 or 6 pages or 5 pages, you know, and it goes into that history. All right, matter of fact, because I know some of you individuals out there lazy as fuck. Or you know what, I'm thinking I'll be able to do it. I still can do it. You know, that's let me see, just bear with me 1 second. Boom. Boom. There we go. Let's see, can I? Nope, not able to do it. I thought I would be able to just put it on the comment section. But nevertheless, you know what you know what to do. You know. So let's go back. Where were we? Okay, we were here. Alright, so now let's go back to Jeremiah 2. Alright, so that you know we became vain. Neither said they, where is the Lord that brought us up? Oh, I'm sorry, I was down here. And let's read 7 again. And I brought you into a plentiful country to eat the fruit thereof and the goodness thereof. But when you entered, you defiled my land and made mine heritage an abomination. The priests said not, where is the Lord? Yeah, because the priests are supposed to be the ones that keep the law. You know, I said the priest's lips should teach knowledge. Because they were the, for lack of better words, they were the gatekeepers of the Lord, you know, because they knew the law. It says, and they that handle the law knew me not. The pastors also transgressed against me. Yeah, because you had the priests, you had the ones that watch over the flock, the pastors, which, you know, which would be prophets. All right, it says, and the prophets prophesied by Baal and walked after things that do not profit. And this is what happened. All right, wherefore I will yet plead with you, saith the Lord, and with your children's children will I plead. And that's why to this very day, those curses are upon us. All right, because the curses would follow us no matter where we went. And one of the curses, one of the main curses that followed us, oh, check this out. Let's go to Deuteronomy 28. Let's go to the 30. Matter of fact, you know what? Let's just go straight to the point, because I believe it says it all the way down here. Yep. Deuteronomy 28 and 64. And the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushua shall scatter thee among all people. This is where you get the word diaspora from. You know, which diaspora is in the Greek. Whenever you look up diaspora, it's usually speaking about the Israelites that were scattered. All right. It says, and the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, and that means all people. That's why you have Israelites that look like all nations on the planet Earth. This goes hand in hand with Revelation chapter 7, where it speaks about the great multitude of all nations and peoples and tongues. Why? Because you had Israelites that are going to be all over the earth, that are going to be speaking all different type of languages, that the Lord is going to deliver. They're going to be looking like all of these different nations. And this is why the angel was messing with the Apostle John and asked him, what are these that came through great tribulation? And he gave the safe answer, thou knowest, because he didn't know. And pretty much they were they that came through great tribulation, because these are the Israelites. You know, and a lot of you individuals out there, including Israelites, and even some among Great Millstone, are going to get offended when they see some of these people coming in the way they look. You know, you're going to be highly offended. Because, you know, you're going to be like, well, they're heathen, those are heathen. Which shows that some of you guys, even in Great Millstone, are not spiritual. You know, it says from the one end of the earth even unto the other, right? Because Jake has been scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. And there thou shalt serve what? Other gods. So you shall serve other gods. The gods of the nations, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. Yeah, because our forefathers back then didn't know about Caesar Borgia / Serapis Christus. I'm talking about going all the way back when Moses was given the law. That wouldn't come till, you know, thousands of years later. You know? Or at least a good 1400 years later. You know? And they definitely don't know about these gods today, you know, that these nations are worshiping. So going back to Jeremiah 2 and 10, for pass over the isles of Kittim and see, and send unto Kedar, and consider diligently, and see if there be such a thing. Hath a nation changed their gods, which are yet no gods? So this is a question that the Most High is asking. Is there any nation out there that has changed their gods, which are yet no gods? And the answer to that is no. You know, these different nations are still worshiping their gods from ancient times. They might have different names today. It's still the same God. You know, you got your Molech, you got your Baal and Balaam and Ashtoreth, you know, and all these different, you know, gods of these nations that, you know, are still being worshipped today, even if they might have different names. But it's the same customs, the same rituals, you know, the same, you know, everything. It says, but my people, the Israelites, have changed their glory for that which doth not profit. Because the gods of the nations are just idols. They don't prosper. The nations are doing well because the Lord is providing for them. He's allowing them to do well. You see? But Jake, they want that. They want to follow vanity because it's programmed in them to follow vanity. All right? It says, be astonished, O ye heavens, at this, and be horribly afraid. Be ye very desolate, saith the Lord Yahweh Bashem El Shai. For my people have committed two evils. They have forsaken me, the fountain of living waters, because the fountain of living waters represents what? This knowledge bursting inside of the Israelites, and the knowledge being kept, bursting with all of this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, also keeps Jake grounded and keeps the benefits of the Lord, coming. When we go to, is that Joshua? The first chapter. Whoa, here it goes. We got to wipe the dust off of this one. I'll start at 7. Joshua 1:7. Only be thou strong and very courageous, that thou mayest observe to do according to all the law which Moses my servant commanded thee. Turn not from it to the right hand or to the left, that thou mayest prosper whithersoever thou goest. This book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, that thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein. For then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have good success. And that's why I said that we forsook the fountain of living waters and hewed them out cisterns, right? You have a cistern which holds water, right? But this here is a broken cistern that can hold no water. See? It says, is Israel a servant? Is he a homeborn slave? We weren't meant to be that way, but the Lord brought us down. It says, why is he spoiled? Right, because we are royalty. Royalty is not supposed to be spoiled. But the Lord took his hedge from off of us because of, our malicious acts and deeds. Like I said, it's a bigger purpose, those of you brothers that have been studying for a while, that are teachers, you understand that it had to go down this way. It says, the young lions roared upon him and yelled, which is dealing with what? Dealing with these different nations. And they made his land waste. His cities are burnt without inhabitants. Yeah, because the Assyrians came in, then the Babylonians came in, and when the Babylonians came in and took down Jerusalem back then, they burnt everything. They even burned the law, the books of the law, just like Antiochus Epiphanes did. So they desecrated it. And this shows you the anger of the Lord, because, we pissed him off, so he used these heathens to piss us off. And he told Jake, I believe that was in the book of Leviticus. Let me see. You know what? Let me try it this way. Let me try it this way. All right, I'll go to this one. Numbers 33 and Numbers 33 and 55. But if you will not drive out the inhabitants of the land from before you, then it shall come to pass that those which you let remain of them shall be pricks in your eyes and thorns in your sides, and shall vex you in the land wherein you dwelt. And then there's another one. Let me see. It became a snare. Let me see if that comes up. Well, this is a good one. There's others, I think, but I can't think of the correct wording. But Judges 8:27. This is after the Lord gave Gideon that great victory. It says, and Gideon made an ephod thereof, because he asked for all the silver, that they gathered. because he made an ephod to honor the Lord, right? And put it in his city, even in Ophrah, and all Israel went thither a whoring after it. And that's Jake. It don't take much for Jake. You got a new thing to worship, a new God to worship, new wisdom, and false wisdom or whatever the case is. You need somebody to worship it. Guess what? Jake will be there to worship it. Which thing became a snare unto Gideon and to his house. See? So these things became a snare. And even when we go to the book of Psalms, I love this chapter, because this one chapter I used to always use a lot to show that Jake went off. Psalms 106:34. They did not destroy the nations concerning whom the Lord commanded them, but were mingled among the heathen and learned their works. You see? And they served their idols, which were a snare unto them. This is the one I was looking for. Which were a snare unto them. It was a trap. That's why the Lord said, just bear with me 1 second. Let's go to 1 Corinthians. See, you can never really, go into something like this on the streets because there's a lot of commotion, and especially when you're dealing with devils like vocab and the like, they're going to come up and try to continue to filibuster to change the subject. Because their thing is, we don't care what the Bible says. You're gonna learn. You're gonna accept this. We're gonna shove it down your throat. Because modern day Christianity is nothing more than white supremacy. All right? Since they conquered us, they've been dictating to us what the Bible is about and what the teaching of the Bible is about. And they're not trying to let go of that power. Remember Carnegie in the book of Eli, he said, there's power in that book. The people will believe it if it says it in the book. And they use it against us so much so that you have Israelites out there that denounce the Bible as a white man's book. But it's not a white man's book. It's not an Edomite book. It's the book of the Israelites, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. But it was just used against us in that fashion. But now the Lord has given us the proper understanding of what it is. 1 Corinthians 12:1. Now concerning spiritual gifts, brethren, I would not have you ignorant. You know that ye were Gentiles, carried away unto these dumb idols, even as you were led. So you were Gentiles. How? Because you were carried away unto these idols. And those same idols became a snare unto them. Yea, they sacrificed their sons and their daughters unto devils. You can read the rest of it. Oh, matter of fact, I'm going to just jump down here. 29. Thus were they defiled with their own works, and went a-whoring with their own inventions. Therefore was the wrath of the Lord kindled against his people, insomuch that he abhorred his own inheritance, meaning he avoided them, and he gave them into the hand of the heathen, and they that hated them ruled over them. All right, so on and so forth. So going back to Jeremiah 2, right, and 16, also the children of Naph and Tahaphanes have broken the crown of thy head. These are cities in Egypt, because the Egyptians kicked our ass. And then, during the time of the Assyrians, Babylonians, and all that, you did have Egypt there, but they were not, they never rose to the capacity of the empire that they had at one time. So they were kicking our ass back then too. Hast thou not procured this unto thyself? See, you brought it on yourself. Let's look up this word procured. You brought it on yourself. Aisha means to do. To do, fashion, accomplish, make, produce. So you brought it on yourself. How? By worshiping them goddamn idols. Hast thou not procured this unto thyself? in that thou hast forsaken the Lord thy power, when he led thee by the way. And now what hast thou to do in the way of Egypt? Jake always going back to Egypt. The elder Kazakh talking about some goddamn Egypt. Fuck Egypt. To drink the waters of Sihor. I don't give a damn if Israel was made a great nation in Egypt. You know, that is not our land. To drink the waters of Sihor, or what hast thou to do in the way of Assyria? To drink the waters of the river. Thine own wickedness shall correct thee, and thy backsliding shall reprove thee. Know therefore and see that it is an evil thing that and bitter that thou hast forsaken the Lord thy power, and that my fear is not in thee, said the Lord Yahweh Shemashah of hosts. For of old time I have broken thy yoke and burst thy bands, and thou saidest, I will not transgress, meaning break the law, which is sin. When upon every high hill and under every green tree thou wanderest playing the harlot. See? And that's why the Lord, called Jake a harlot. And then when we go to Jeremiah, the 3rd chapter, thought it was here, hold up. The beginning. Just bear with me 1 second. See? I was just right there. Couldn't see it. Jeremiah 3:3. Therefore the showers have been withholden, and there hath been no latter rain. And thou hadst a whore's forehead. Thou refusest to be ashamed, right? Because the Lord is married unto us. And this whole chapter 3 goes into that. Heavy. Alright, so back here, Jeremiah 2:21, right? Because Jake played the harlot. Yet I had planted thee a noble vine, wholly a right seed. Yeah, because he gave us everything that we needed to walk in that holy, royal way. How then art thou turned into the degenerate plant of a strange vine unto me? See? And this is how Jake became heathens. Because even when you go to this word strange vine, you have the word that's normally used for an actual heathen, Nakaria. But every once in a while, this could apply to Jake. As in the case of here, Jeremiah 2, Isaiah 56, 1 Kings 8, and I believe that's also Second Chronicles 6, which is the prayer of Solomon. Foreign, alien. And sometimes right here it says unknown, unfamiliar. Right, because Jake became a strange vine, a foreigner. All right, then here it says adulterous, a strange vine unto me. And then when we go to the word degenerate plant, the word there is sawar, degenerate. See, deteriorate, turned off. Jake became turned off or deteriorated. All right? Matter of fact, let's look up the word degenerate, see what it says. If somebody calls you degenerate, those are not good words. Having lost the physical, mental, or moral qualities considered normal and desirable, showing evidence of decline, see? So Jake degenerated from that royal state. And that's how Jake became heathens. It says, for though thou wash thee with nitre and take thee much soap, yet thine iniquity is marked before me, saith the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. Come. How canst thou say, I am not polluted? I have not gone after Balaam. See thy way in the valley. Know what thou hast done. Thou art a swift dromedary traversing her ways. Right, because, you know, you could lie to man, but you can't lie to the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. A wild ass used to the wilderness that snuffeth up the wind at her pleasure and her occasion, who can turn her away? Right, you can't. You know, and wild stallions, all they that seek her will not weary themselves in her month, they shall find her. It says, withhold thy foot from being unshod, meaning not having this truth, and thy throat from thirst, not having this truth. But thou saidest, there is no hope. No, for I have loved strangers, and after them will I go. And this is what happened with Jake. Now, Jake don't trust in Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. They trust in anything else but. That's why when you bring out the truth on them, they don't want to hear it. As a thief is ashamed when he is found, so is the house of Israel ashamed. See? They, their kings, their princes, and their priests, and their prophets, saying to a stock, thou art my father, and to a stone, thou hast brought me forth. And we used to bring this scripture out a lot for the NOI/FOI, you know, Jakes out there, when they were praying to a stone, you know, out there in Mecca. But it just applies to any Jake out there that's worshiping in these churches, or anything that they worship, whether it's Buddhism, Hinduism, or whatever ism. For they have turned their back unto me, and not their face. But in the time of their trouble, they will say, arise and save us. Jake got some goddamn nerve. It's always when Jake get in trouble that they want to seek the Lord. But where are thy gods that thou hast made thee? Right. Let them arise that they can save thee in the time of thy trouble. Yeah, because it's vain to worship these things, because they have no power. It says, for according to the number of thy cities are thy gods, O Judah. Wherefore would ye plead with me? Ye all have transgressed against me, saith the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. In vain have I smitten your children. I kicked you in the ass, but it's all in vain. They received no correction. They weren't corrected. Just like today, Jake is not corrected. You bring it out, they don't listen. Your own sword hath devoured your prophets like a destroying lion. O generation, see ye the word of the Lord? Have I been a wilderness unto Israel, a land of darkness? Wherefore say my people, we are lords. We will not come no more unto thee. Can a maid forget her ornaments, or a bride her attire? Yet my people have forgotten me days without number, even to this very day. Why trimmest thou thy way to seek love? Therefore hast thou also taught the wicked ones thy ways. And that's Jake all the way. Teaching these devils all your secrets. Also in thy skirts is found the blood of the souls of the poor innocents. I have not found it by secret search, but upon all these. Yeah, because they kill, you know, they used to sacrifice their children to Molech, burn their children, sons and daughters to the fire. They're doing that today when they sell out. Yet thou sayest, because I am innocent, surely his anger shall turn from me. And then in the churches, you have these Jakes that go to church, and then they turn their children to the church. And some of them get so caught up in that they can't come out of it. Behold, I will plead with thee, because thou sayest, I have not sinned. Why gettest thou abroad so much to change thy way? Right. You already got the perfect way, but you don't want that. Thou also shalt be ashamed of Egypt, as thou was ashamed of Assyria. Yea, thou shalt go forth from him, and thine hands upon thine head. Thine hands upon thy head. Right. When you have your hands upon your head, meaning you are in pain. For the Lord hath rejected thy confidence, and thou shalt not prosper in them. See? And that's why no matter where we went on the earth, we were catching hell under these heathens, under these nations. All right? So with that, you know, I pray that you brothers and sisters have been edified. This has been how Jake became Gentiles. And now, once you understand that history, you can understand when you read the New Testament, the salvation that's given to these Gentiles in the New Testament. You know, sometimes it says, you're not my people, which goes back to Hosea. You know, and sometimes it's worded differently. But it's all because the Israelites became strange to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Shalom.